Welcome to Freed on Business. He grew up in South Florida, has been in business here since the early 90s, and has closed over $3 billion in deals. He's seen it all. He always has an opinion, and he's always ready to share it. Informed, entertaining, and connected, he has his finger on the pulse of South Florida's business community. He's Jim Freed, and this is Freed on Business.
Oh, are you ready to rock today, everybody? Oh, usually I say that and I don't mean it, but today I really mean it. We've got a rocking show for you today. It's all about my college experience and the experience in college of our guests, too, I believe. We've got a great show here. We've got Charles Flink. He's going to talk about the green space and the Greenway. We always used to go and listen to those concerts out on the green. He's going to compare the Gainesville Greenway, the Miami Greenway. Going to tell us some of his favorite green spaces and why they make the community what they do. We also have Grace Hale on. Grace, I can't wait to talk with Professor Hale. She teaches at UVA, but her topic today is the alternative rock scene in Athens, Georgia. Oh, about the 80s. We're talking REM. We're talking the B-52s, not the planes. And we are also going to have a great discussion later with Michael Ray FitzGerald. He's going to talk about the Southern Rock in Jacksonville. That's where we talk about the Allman Brothers and Leonard Skinner and the Outlaws and Stranger and all of them. So stick with us. I'm just about coffeeed up enough to deal with this topic. We'll be back after this. Reagan, take it away. Or as I like to say, rock the house. Everybody, that's right. You're on South Florida's longest running business talk show, and we are Freed on Business. We're sponsored by Warren Henry Automotive. So when you're looking to be the breeze, do it in your Warren Henry Auto. That's right. When you're looking to buy or lease a car, you want to get every advantage that you can. That's why you have to check out Warren Henry Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, and Jaguar. Up in Gainesville, they sell Audis. Down in the Keys, well, that place has them all. What do they all have in common? Well, they're all great name plates, and they all come with the Warren Henry Advantage. That means you get complimentary service loaner, dynamic wheel protection, key replacement, guaranteed purchase offer, best value guarantee, and the 72-hour exchange. You can trade in your car for a different one for 72 hours if you don't like the first one. Guess what? Nobody ever does that because they like their first car. So join me, my mom, and my beautiful wife, Vivian. We're all members of the Warren Henry family. You should be too. Always the best service, always the best price, always Warren Henry. All right, you know who else wins? You win when you call me at 305-773-6300. Why? Because when you call me, it's always all about you. Right now, I'm working on a whole bunch of residential mortgages for my friends. I've got about 12 of them in process. They're not easy, but we're getting them done. So if you need a loan over $500,000 or one that's below $500,000 even, give me a call at 305-773-6300. Bridge loan, got that too. All my commercial clients are calling me, and I'm helping them get from today till tomorrow. If you had a deal that worked in 2019 and in 2021, but it doesn't necessarily work now, call me, and I've got fresh money for you. And finally, for my friends in office buildings, 5G is here. I can bring new cash flow to your businesses right now. So call me at 305-773-6300. Why? Because when you call me, it is always all about you.
Welcome back to Freed on Business. Connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Freed or at Freed on Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
All right, we are back, and we've got a tremendous show. I want to thank Lisa from the Miami Book Fair, for bringing it to us. We've got some great authors today. We're going to start out with Grace Hale, then we've got Charles Flink right after that. Grace, tell us a little bit about your book and why I know why it's so fun to read. I just wish it came with a record, too.
Well, it comes with a Spotify playlist. If you subscribe to that service, you can get the Cool Town playlist and listen along. I'm Grace Hale. I teach history at the University of Virginia, but this is a different kind of book for me. It is really not an academic book at all. It is a history of the story of the Athens music scene, the bands, and other key figures that in making that scene come alive in the late 70s and 80s. And frankly, it's a great kind of book to read right now when all of us are longing for those crowded, hot, sweaty, fire code breaking spaces where we're dancing to great music and hanging out with our friends too close, not social distant. So if you're into indie music or alternative music or ever liked any of the bands from Athens, these are the stories behind the music.
Now, let me ask you this before we get started. I found out about that when I was a camp counselor in Cleveland, Georgia, and all the kids came up and said, I want to be a rock lobster. Now, we all know Rock Lobster, we know Love Shack, but tell me, what is a song that is really good that we're missing out on?
From the B-52s or from I think the B-52s are one of the most underrated bands to come out during this time period. I mean, certainly they're popular, but I think the great popularity they achieved made people sort of over time not remember how brilliant they were. They were thought of as a punk band when they came out. And I think songs like 52 Girls, Dance This Mess Around, I mean, those are really complicated, smart, deep songs. Just because you can dance like mad to them and kids like them at summer camp, give them another listen, because there is a lot going on there lyrically and musically. Really fantastic music.
Well, they're fronted by two women, which was unusual for the time also, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they're a band made up of people who, except for Cindy Wilson, are not straight. And they're not shy about that, even in the late 70s and 80s, and a time period of really horrific homophobia in this country. Sometimes I think people forget that now, but the Reagan era is a period of great homophobia. And Ricky Wilson, Keith Strickland, Fred Schneider, all gay, all open about that. Kate Pearson has had deep relationships with both men and women. I'm not sure how she publicly self-identifies, but she publicly identifies that she's had those relationships. This is a band that really is ahead of its time in so many ways, and putting together a kind of punk ethos of amateurism and fun with a kind of connections to Black music, James Brown, dancing, that a lot of that punk music coming out of New York at the time is certainly not doing. Music critics at the time would say the B-52s made punk fun.
It's true. Now, REM was much more sophisticated. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, REM is fascinating. They're of the next wave or two down from the B-52s. They debut in 1980. Between the B-52s debut in the late 70s, there is an outpouring of bands before REM, but REM really looks around, learns from those bands that have come before them, and they it's interesting because they become the most famous band ever to come from Athens. They're global superstars, and yet at the same time, in their early days, they've got a little bit of a complicated, difficult relationship with Athens, with some of the other key figures not thinking they're artsy enough, thinking that they're too conventional, thinking they're playing cover songs just because they're playing garage sounding music. Pete Buck was a record collector, and he had like the Nuggets collection and all those wonderful collections of the old 60s garage sounds. People didn't have Spotify back then, and they thought, oh, that sounds familiar. It must be a cover. It wasn't a cover. They wrote the songs. They just had that kind of sound. Of course, they go on to be Athens' greatest champion. And I think also we forget they're so key in spreading the idea, if punk says anybody can play music if you can learn 3 chords, REM says anyone can play music anywhere. Punk can happen anywhere. They are the people that bring that message to the world. They play hot dog stands, pizza parlors, gay clubs that have new wave nights. There is no place too low or too weird for them to play in their early years. They have this kind of, Pete Buck is reading Kerouac. They're out there on the road. They've got that romance of the four guys in the beat down van, and they're out there playing everywhere. And everywhere they play, they're saying to everybody who listens to them, you can do this too, wherever you are. You don't have to move to New York City. You don't even have to move to Athens. You can do it wherever you are.
Now, of those two bands, those are perhaps the most high profile, but we've only got a few minutes left. Who would you say is the most impactful?
Well, in terms of the scene itself and really the longevity of their music, their music is amazing. I'll just mention Pylon. I mean, I could go through a list, but Pylon is reissuing all their material through New West Records, so it's a great time to get into them if you haven't been into them. It's all going to be newly available next month. Some of their music is on Spotify. More of it will be when the reissue happens. And they have a very sparse, angular, funky, fun, danceable sound that just might be the kind of thing you need to liven up your quarantine.
Oh my gosh. Well, listen, I really look forward to your quarantine playlist. What do we have is there anything new coming out of Athens that we should know about?
Great music is always coming out of Athens. There is a wonderful woman hip hop artist who raps under the name Lingua Franca that's absolutely worth checking out. She's actually also been voted onto the county city commission. So she's got a really nice combination of politics and music going on there. Another musician who has actually passed away, but new music is still coming out from him that everyone should check out is Vic Chestnut. Absolutely a fantastic singer-songwriter, one of America's greats that most people aren't familiar with.
Hey, Grace, I really want to thank you for coming on the show today. Sorry my Gators had to beat UVA in the Orange Bowl. Couldn't let you go without that. You know what? That's fine with me because even though I work at UVA, deep down, I'm a Bulldog. Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. We'll see you guys in November. God bless you, Grace. Thank you so much for being. If you want to hang out when we're talking to Michael Ray FitzGerald about the other Southern rock bands, you're more than welcome to hang out. We loved having you. He's going to be up in about 15 minutes, and we're going to go with Charles Flink next. We're going to talk to him about green space in the United States and its impact on your community right after this. Reagan, take it away. And Grace, thanks again for bringing some of my favorites to the show.
Thanks, Jim.
First round of rock and roll, and stick with us. We've got Michael Ray FitzGerald. He's coming up at the second half hour, and we're going to talk about Southern rock. It's right down the middle of the fairway for me. Charles Flink is coming up next, talking about green space. But before we do that, I want to remind everybody about Warren Henry. Remember, if you're looking to buy or lease a car, you want to get every advantage that you can. That's why you have to check out Warren Henry. Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, and Jaguar. Up in Gainesville, they sell Audi. Down in Key West, they've got all the great nameplates. What do they all have in common? Well, they're all great cars, and they all come with the Warren Henry Advantage. That means complimentary service loaner, dynamic wheel protection, key replacement, guaranteed purchase offer, best value guarantee in the 72-hour exchange. You can take 3 days to make sure you love your car. You will. So join me, my mom, and my beautiful wife, Vivian. We're all members of the Warren Henry family. You should be too. Always the best service, always the best price, always Warren Henry.
This is Becca Carlson from Carlson Integrated. You know, a lot of our clients find that they can do anything, but not really everything. We are always excited to jump in and help. So whether you need another set of hands for a project or even comprehensive marketing management, our team of marketing mavens would love to have a conversation with you to see if we are the right fit. We do everything from logo and design work to email outreach and social media to writing and thought leadership. And here's a fun one. We are now offering our fabulous ebook of top 10 marketing tips on our website for free. So head over to carlsonintegrated.com and grab a copy today. And please always let us know how we can help. My email is Becca, that's BEKAH at carlsonintegrated.com. That's BEKAH at carlsonintegrated.com.
All right, everybody, and choose me if you need to refinance your home or get some capital for your commercial real estate deal. I'm hot as a pistol. Psst, oh, my God. Give me a call at 305-773-6300. Got 10 or 11 different home loans, up to a couple, $3 million that we're doing. Call me if you think I can help. Call me if you don't think I can help. If you don't think somebody can do it, definitely call me because we're getting it done. Bridge loans for commercial, doing that too. People think I'm crazy, but I'm getting it done. And now I can bring 5G to your building and bring you incredible cash flow. So call me at 305-773-6300. Why? Because when you call me, it is always all about you.
Welcome back to Freed on Business. Connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Freed or at Freed on Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
We're on now with Charles Flink. Charles wrote this great book about the Greenway imperative. It talks about how to connect your, I'm trying to get it on there, how to connect your community with green space. It's extraordinarily important, especially in a place where here in the city of Miami, we got like the lowest ratio of parks per people in the entire country. I ran for city commission. This is a horrible problem here in Miami. We're trying to address it with the underline, which will just scratch the surface. Charles, welcome to the show. Please tell me a little bit about greenways and how we can make America better with these.
Jim, thanks so much. It's so good to be with you today, and I appreciate the all the rock and roll today. That's awesome. Big fan myself. So I got into this book. I've been in private practice for 35 years, worked in 250 communities, 36 states, and 7 foreign countries doing greenways. And like Grace, this was a departure for me. I wrote 2 technical books in the 1990s, the how-to, the soup to nuts kind of books. And I realized what was missing in the marketplace was talking about the human story, the backstory, how people, champion these projects in their local communities. What were the challenges that they overcame? And I feature communities that people are familiar with. Las Vegas, Nevada. Who would imagine there would be parks and open space and greenways in Las Vegas? Grand Canyon National Park, a little bit more familiar. The opportunity to work with the Walton Family Foundation in Bentonville, Arkansas. And then places that maybe people aren't familiar with. Grand Forks, North Dakota. Who's ever been there, right? Fort Mill, South Carolina, and of course, Miami, which was a lot of fun for me to work with in the 1990s in the Miami River Greenway. So that's a little bit of backstory about the book and why I published it. And a shout out to University Press of Florida as my publisher for this. Really enjoyed working with them.
High five.
Absolutely, go Gators.
Now, really, what I want to do, this, Charles, is everybody knows they want green space. Everybody needs green space. Everybody tries to get green space. And then they realize not everybody wants green space.
Right.
There's always a fight. And so I think that the most important thing, and I think you talk about it here in the book enough, is building the right coalition.
Yes, absolutely. And, it's interesting in Miami because it's a Spanish-speaking community. English is the minority language there. And I come down and I start talking about, greenways, and my Cuban-American audience asks me, Via Verde, why is the way green? And it was a great lesson for me that, this is really about cultural framing. And I did some research on Cuban culture, discovered the Malecón in Havana. And I said, well, look, we want to build the Malecón in Miami. And they're like, why didn't you tell us that in the first place? So it's really about having those conversations. It's about connecting with your community in positive ways, bringing everybody together. Green space and greenways have an amazing ability to do this. We can talk about economic development. We can talk about environmental preservation. We can talk about places that people want to go and get healthy and well. There's a lot of different ways of building that coalition. And that's what we try to do in all these communities.
I think that the most important thing and the most timely thing is building relationships within the communities. The Greenway can go from neighborhood to neighborhood and help those neighborhoods interact and grow together, which creates a much better fabric of a community, which will help a community grow and mature. Thoughts?
Absolutely, Jim. And that was one of the challenges for the Miami River. It's such a gritty and dynamic river. It's only 5 miles long, but we realized right away we did not have a homogeneous landscape, right? We had a landscape that was 3 in 1. We had a marine dependent industry that really needs the river for their operations. We had people that wanted to recreate on the river. We had people that lived on the river, really dynamic and lots of different things. So we had to adjust our philosophy about building an urban greenway, an urban riverfront greenway, to the conditions that we encountered, while at the same time, building that coalition. And as you said, what greenways tend to do is to knit the fabric of a community together. It pulls from the cultural reference. It pulls from the environmental and the urban reference, and really is that tie. And that, the underline is going to do that. The underline is going to go a long distance in Miami, and it's going to connect all these different neighborhoods. And really, the starting point for that project is going to be on the Miami River. So it's an important connection there as well.
Yes, it's going to connect, God willing, to both the greenways. And the thing that they're missing in Brickell Avenue, where it's going to be starting and pivoting, is a place for young people to go and recreate. And so I think this is going to be a great opportunity for parents to get their kids on a bike and help them ride to the different neighborhoods and learn about Coconut Grove and the diversity of Coconut Grove, and in Coral Gables, which is a completely different area. And then, God willing, when it goes all the way down, you'll hopefully be able to ride to the Everglades.
That's right. And that's the power of greenways. They're linear landscapes. They traverse long distances. They go through all different kinds of neighborhoods, from urban industrial to high-end residential to minority neighborhoods that need these landscapes. They need to be connected for the purposes of transportation, for health and wellness. So they're really unique landscapes in that regard, and that's what the book tries to paint. It tries to talk about the depth and the breadth of greenways, where they can be applied in different types of landscapes. And I'm hoping that if your readers aren't familiar with the concept of greenways, that the book helps them to understand all the different ways in which these are applied. And that was one of the purposes of describing such a big range of projects, from conservation to transportation.
I'd really like to see one here in Miami that goes from our really urbanized areas of Wynwood, and where a person in Wynwood would be able to get safely on their bike all the way to the Everglades. To me, that's maybe 10 or 20 years away. Another thing is it may have to go on state, county, and federal roads. Now, that's a good question. Right. You talk about a greenway, but in an urban area, a greenway may have to also have a little asphalt in it and maybe go. How do you get the governmental agencies to talk? It's impossible to get local, state, and federal government together to do, I'm going to say it, anything.
Right. Well, I'll give a shout out to my buddy Mark Heineke, who's there in Miami-Dade County. He's laid out the Miami-Dade Greenway system. They're doing great work there. And yes, a lot of challenges in urban environments. And that's, the book does point that out, how we took a single project in the Razorback Greenway in Arkansas, and we navigated the urban environment. We had to use the road system. Right. And so we wound up shutting down a couple of lanes of traffic due to the traffic volumes of automobiles, and converted those lanes into safe bike and walking lanes that are used today by school kids to go to school. So there are these techniques for how you cross urban communities and successfully integrate these landscapes in place. And Miami-Dade has an incredible master plan, and yes, it's going to take a lot of years to do that. And I did work on the River of Grass Greenway, which went from Naples to Miami. Maybe one day that'll happen as well. But the Miami-Dade Greenway system will connect eventually down into the Everglades.
So I'd love to get you on and just do a longer segment with him and talk about the urban alternatives. Not that I'm running for city commission again, but
understood.
I think that it's an important discussion to have in the city, and we don't do politics on the show. This wouldn't be a political thing. This is a quality of life thing. Quality of life is an incredible driver for business, and I'm sure that's one of the reasons why the Walton Family Foundation brought you. What did you do for them?
Right. And Jim, it is not political. And I've worked with both sides of the aisle for all my career. It's not an R or D thing. It's not a red or blue thing. Both sides support this huge. They just passed the Great American Outdoors Act. It's the greatest piece of legislation passed in America in 30 years. So it shows that this is a meeting ground. It's not a divisive ground. And the Walton Family Foundation, the Walton family, they were traveling different parts of the world to recreate, to go mountain bike. And they thought, why don't we just do this in our own hometown. We've got all the resources. And so we were brought in to help put this catalytic project on the ground, the Razorback Greenway, 36 miles connecting 6 cities together, lots of different types of landscape, really challenging project, 122 private landowners that we had to deal with. And different types of jurisdictions that we had to cross and deal with all those elected officials. But it came together. It was a great team. I really give them lots of props for having the vision to do that, and it's changed the culture of their community, which is important to understand for people in Miami. Investing in that project transformed Northwest Arkansas from being not bicycle friendly, not walkable, to one today, in 10 short years is bike friendly and walkable. So those are the kinds of things that can happen with these projects.
Now, down here in South Florida, biking to work is a little bit difficult 9 months out of the year.
Right.
But I got to believe that you can also switch the facilities and the buildings to be able to accommodate that if you have a community that asks for it. Have you seen something like that in, say, Portland or Seattle?
Absolutely. You see this in communities now happening more and more, where we understand to embrace the culture of bicycling, we have to realize that showers, changing areas have to be provided at destination places. A lot of those destinations are going to be places of work, places where we work. So, how hard is that to do? Not really all that hard. Also, bike parking, safe, secure bike parking. And accommodating flexible work schedules that allow people to bike into work. So it's really about the culture of our communities. And Jim, we've been an automobile-oriented nation for many, many, many years. So to flip that, it's not easy. But we've invested in it now for about 30 years. We have a growing national network of Greenway systems. We have growing metropolitan systems that are happening all across the country. So for folks, listening, it's happening. It's a slow process, but we're making a lot of progress. But it's really about changing the culture of your community.
Charles, is there a list of this so that people can start saying, I want to go to every Greenway in the country like they go to the ballparks? Because I got to really believe that a summer vacation, doing a couple of these greenways with your kids could turn out really nice.
I can direct you like East Coast Greenway. If you go to greenway.org, East Coast Greenway has a list now. They're trying to put these 100-mile segments together so that you and your family could go on 3-day holidays and bike, certain sections. I led one of those groups from Washington, D.C. to Baltimore, Maryland, and led another from Wilmington, Delaware to Manhattan, all on bike. So, it's becoming more possible, and the East Coast Greenway is about a third complete, so it's about 1,000 miles. Their goal is to have 3,000 miles from Maine to Florida, so that you'd be able to bike the entire eastern United States. These are becoming realities more and more. So a couple of organizations that people can check out: Rails to Trails Conservancy, the East Coast Greenway, and American Trails. Those are 3 places that people can go to get this kind of information if they're interested in conducting those kind of trips.
You should do a TV show, Great Green Trails in America.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, people have read the book and said, wow, this would be great if you do this as a documentary. So maybe that's next in the future, is we can do some documentary like that.
Well, I know who's going to help. So listen, Charles, let's get connected off the air. This was tremendous. I am really looking forward to this. We're very excited about the Greenway. Many of my friends are involved. I've been involved. I've had them profiled on the show when they started their raising of the money. And so I want to thank you for all the people that you're never going to meet and all the lives that you've improved, Charles. You should get a high five for that.
Thank you, Jim. It's been great being on your show today. Thanks so much.
It's my pleasure. If you want to stick around and listen to Fitzy talk about the rock and roll, you're more than welcome to join us. We're going to have our next segment with Michael Ray FitzGerald on. We're going to talk about, I'm going to say it, the soundtrack of my life. I cannot wait. This Jew boy from Miami is one Southern rocker. We'll be back after this with Michael Ray FitzGerald talking about the soundtrack of the 70s and 80s. Reagan, take it away. Everybody, this is South Florida's longest running business talk show, and today we're talking lifestyle. the soundtrack of my life, and the green space I love to enjoy. I don't think I could come up with a better combination. So remember, our sponsor is Warren Henry Automotive. And when you're looking to buy or lease a car, you want to get every advantage that you can. That's why you have to check out Warren Henry, Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, and Jaguar. They're all great cars. Up in Gainesville, they sell Audis. Down to the Keys, they sell them all. We got to get a Greenway all the way down to the Keys so I can go buy a car. Oh, yeah, I love Warren Henry. What all these things have in common? Well, they all sell great cars, and they all come with the Warren Henry advantage. That means complimentary service loaner, dynamic wheel protection, key replacement, guaranteed purchase offer, best value guarantee, and the 72-hour exchange. It can take 3 days to make sure you love your car. You will. So join all my friends, me, my wife, my mom, my beautiful wife, Vivian. We're all members of the Warren Henry family. You should be too. Always the best price, always the best service, always Warren Henry. She always makes me look and sound so good. She's tremendous. I was just checking us out on LinkedIn Live. That's just amazing. I'm so excited. Hey, everybody, give me a call at 305-773-6300 if I can help you with either a residential or commercial mortgage. All my friends, I'm helping them get their residential mortgages. It's not easy. The window is closing, and soon rates will rise as inflation hits the marketplace and rates respond, probably sometime the beginning of next year, maybe the middle of next year. But right now, we're busy. Call us. You can still get your loan done by year end. I had a friend of mine call me yesterday. Did a huge commercial deal for him a number of years ago. Now he goes, Jim, can you help me finance my home and my guest house? I said, sure. Then we're going to talk about his next big commercial real estate deal, which I'm also going to get him a bridge loan on. So call me at 305-773-6300 if you want to do a real estate deal, or today if you want to talk rock and roll. Why? Because when you call me, it is always all about you.
Welcome back to Freedom Business. Connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Freed or at Freedom Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
I never make up questions, but this time I did. Oh, am I excited to talk to Michael Ray FitzGerald. He chronicles all my boyhood heroes. Michael Ray, just to let you know, I was at the Sportatorium right before when Leonard Skinner played, right before the plane crash. I saw people fall through the roof. They wanted to see him so bad. Swinging the, oh my God, it was an amazing cultural event. Welcome to the show, Michael Ray FitzGerald. Boy, I've been waiting for this.
Hey, Jim, thanks for having me. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, good.
I think Charles is excited too. We've been talking about this offline with Charles for about a half hour now.
Great.
So I don't know. I don't even know where to start. The Allman Brothers, Leonard Skinner. I think you say I should start at Graham Parsons. Why?
Because what he did sort of paved the way for Southern rock, and he lived in Jacksonville for 5 years. So his music was spawned and inspired by this very region.
You know, I know a lot of friends that went to the Bulls school. It was kind of an upper class thing.
Yeah.
It seemed to kind of fit him, but he was a little bit of a wild man. And what influence did he have on the next guys that came?
Well, he was a pioneer of country rock, and I think that Southern rock is very, very similar to what he was doing. Maybe just had a little bit of a harder edge, you know, more guitars, more beef. But they're very, very similar. I would say they're two branches off the same tree. Also, I think the Southern rockers, if I know Cowboy was very aware of him, I think probably Leonard Skinner was aware of him because he was from Waycross, and Ronnie Van Zant's wife, Judy, grew up in Waycross. So she had to know about him. And he was one of the first guys, not the first, but one of the first guys to fly the rebel flag on stage, which he caught hell for.
Yeah, I'm sure. Boy, this is like I'm reading the book. This is right out of the book. This is tremendous. It's like the movie is the same as the book.
Oh, good.
Okay, Almond Joys. Tell me about the Almond Joys and how they helped evolve into, I got to just say it, the foundational Allman Brothers Band.
What a great story. They started off in Daytona Beach as the Escorts, and they evolved into the Almond Joys. They changed, rhythm sections. Greg played guitar. He didn't play keyboards quite yet. And Greg and Dwayne both played guitars. And then Greg switched to keyboards a little bit later, or he played both guitar and keyboards. And they were touring all over the place. The minute Greg graduated from high school, Seabreeze High School, they had a booking agent lined up who booked him all the way up to Trude Heller's in the Village in New York, Miami to New York City and back, and even as far west as St. Louis. And they were playing in Pensacola as the Almond Joys, and they lost their rhythm section. The band just broke up. There happened to be another band from Northern Alabama in Pensacola whose lead singer quit. So they said, well, let's merge these two bands. So they did, and they were called either the Almond Joys or the 5 Minutes, depending on who had the gigs booked under what name.
Yeah, it's great.
They were playing in St. Louis as the Almond Joys, and the manager of the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band came in the club and saw him, and he was just bowled over by him. He said, I can sign you guys to a management contract. I can get you a record deal with the Dirt Band's label. I can bring you out to Los Angeles and put you up in our house. And he did all of those things and got him a deal. And they played around LA for quite some time. The label insisted they changed their name to the Hourglass because they already had a promotional campaign for another group called the Hourglass, which had broken up, and they wanted to use it. And the Almond Joys became the Hourglass, and they pretty much didn't like anything the label was doing in terms of packaging them. And they really had a hard time with it and broke up, came back to Daytona Beach.
So, I went to University of Florida. I used to hang out at Nichols
Go
Alley.
Gators.
You got it. I used to hang out at Nichols Alley, The Outlaws, Stranger, Molly Hatchet. Every time I hit Payne's Prairie, I turn on Molly Hatchet. The rest of the ritual needn't be discussed here on the air, but you can imagine. And so that's the sound that I really remember. How did we get from the Allman Brothers to Leonard Skinner or Lynyrd Skynyrd, and then eventually to Molly Hatchet and all of the bands that because I was a little younger.
A lot of it has to do with a gentleman from Jacksonville named Pat Armstrong. He managed Stranger, by the way, and Molly Hatchet, and he was Skinner's first manager. They were in Jacksonville. He was living in Jacksonville. He brought them to Alan Walden in Macon. Alan Walden came down to Jacksonville to see them on Armstrong's request. And Walden signed him. He got him a deal at Muscle Shoals, and they did some demos there with two producers, three, Tim Smith, and then Jimmy Johnson. And they shopped their records around to every label in Los Angeles and got turned down by all of them. So the only reason they made it big was because they were playing a knife and gun club, a bucket of blood in Atlanta called Funocchios. Well, we call them buckets of blood,
I get it.
And Al Cooper, who had produced several acts, and he'd been an A&R guy at Columbia. He also played organ on Like a Rolling Stone and Positively 4th Street by Bob Dylan. And he founded Blood, Sweat, and Tears. So he was a famous producer, musician, singer, engineer. And he just wandered into Funocchios one night, and he saw Leonard Skinner, and he fell in love with them. And he was the only guy who knew what to do with them. He made them into a Southern rock band because the concept of Southern rock did not exist. Al Cooper, I think, single-handedly created the whole concept of Southern rock because he had a record label called Sounds of the South, and he knew what he wanted, and Leonard Skinner fit that format, and they didn't even know it. They didn't know they were a Southern rock band.
They're tremendous. Now, before we go on, I have to mention my friend Tommy, who I'm now going to have to flip this tape to because he grew up in Muscle Shoals. We always talk about that. So,
wow.
Yeah, no, he talks about it all the time. And so, tell me how we got from Leonard Skinner. Where did like Molly Hatchet come from? Because I mean, that just blows it apart. Molly Hatchet. I mean, their first album just ripped the cover off the ball.
Armstrong managed them too, and Ronnie Van Zant was involved in launching the group, and he was hoping to produce their first album. He produced some early demos for them, and he helped them get their arrangements together. And then there was the plane crash, and that put an end to that, and among other things. And but Armstrong really believed in Molly Hatchet, and he kept going with it, and he got him a deal with Epic Records.
Now, being a Gainesville boy, and we're coming up to the break, I would like to talk for just a minute. You do breeze past Tom Petty, who was from the South, who did sing Rebel, but really was a Southern California rock band by the time he got popular. Yes?
That's true, and he says as much. Although he did kind of flirt with the Southern rock image for a while there in the earlier mid-'80s. But, he actually kind of renounced that. Especially he renounced flying the rebel flag on stage. He said, quote unquote, it was downright stupid thing to do.
Listen, we're going to take a quick break. Michael Ray, can you stick with us for just one more segment? I would like to talk a little more.
Love to.
Okay, that's great. Reagan, I know you got something good teed up, and I know Charles is having a great time here. So we're going to be back with one more round of Southern rock. One more, well, I guess I'm going to have to call it a second helping after this.
That's good.
Hey, this is South Florida's, I was right on cue. This is South Florida's longest running business talk show. I want to thank our guests for joining us today from the Miami Book Fair. We've got great guests, and we're going to talk some more Southern rock right after this. So I'm just loving that. But before we do that, I'm going to talk about something else I love that's got a Gainesville connection. Warren Henry. That's right. When you're looking to buy or lease a car, you want to get every advantage that you can. That's why you have to check out Warren Henry. Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, and Jaguar. They've got a Audi store in Gainesville, and their store in Key West carries all the great nameplates. What do they have in common? Well, they're all great cars, and they come with the Warren Henry Advantage. What's the Warren Henry Advantage? I'm glad you asked. It's complimentary service loaner, dynamic wheel protection, key replacement, guaranteed purchase offer, best value guarantee, and the 72-hour exchange. You can take 3 days to make sure you like your car. So join all kinds of friends of mine, my mom, my beautiful wife, Vivian, and oh my gosh, I'm just all excited now. So just the bottom line is join me, join us all. Always the best price, always the best service, always Warren Henry.
Hey, this is Becca Carlson from Carlson Integrated. A lot of our clients find that they can do anything, but not really everything. We are always excited to jump in and help. So whether you need another set of hands for a project or even comprehensive marketing management, our team of marketing mavens would love to have a conversation with you to see if we are the right fit. We do everything from logo and design work to email outreach and social media to writing and thought leadership. And here's a fun one. We are now offering our fabulous ebook of top 10 marketing tips on our website for free. So head over to carlsonintegrated.com and grab a copy today. And please always let us know how we can help. My email is Becca, that's BEKAH at carlsonintegrated.com. That's BEKAH at carlsonintegrated.com.
She always makes me look so good. She's tremendous. She is better than her voice even sounds. Hey, everybody, give me a call at 305-773-6300 if I can help you with some real estate capital. If you need it on the personal side, I can help you with the residential mortgages. Getting a lot of friends, all these jumbos and super jumbos that have been very difficult. And we're also really helping people streamline their conforming loan requests as well. It's still time to close by year end, but we're getting close. So call me at 305-773-6300 if I can help. And we can close your commercial bridge loan even faster than that. So call me at 305-773-6300. Why? Because when you call me, it's always all about you.
Welcome back to Freed on Business. Connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Freed or at Freed on Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
All right, we are here with Michael Ray FitzGerald. He's a media historian, musician, and former journalist based in Jacksonville. Is this you playing the guitar on the jacket cover?
No, that's not my guitar. It belongs to a friend of mine, Rick Derschler.
Okay.
It's similar to one that Dwayne Allman used. That's why we picked it.
Okay, well, that's awesome. Let's talk about Dickie Betts.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about Dickie Betts, who basically provided the driving sound for these bands. Talk to me about Dickie Betts.
You know, I kind of think that Dickie Betts was one of the major architects of Southern rock. He was probably, it's hard to say who was the original redneck hippie. Was it Ronnie or was it Dickie? They were both in town at the same time. And they both wore long hair, but they were both badasses, and both of them would resort to violence if provoked, which was very unhippie-like. And that was a contradiction with the long hair because, you know, the long hair was a kind of an anti-war statement, a peace. Yeah, it was a peace, a renunciation of violence. So these guys were both contradictions. And Dickie was the guitar god of this region. I mean, you've got a picture of Allen Collins, playing a Firebird. That's because Clapton played a Firebird. Dickie could play Clapton note for note. Dwayne Allman, Clapton tried to recruit Dwayne Allman for his band, and Dwayne Allman said, "Nah, I've got a better band than that." He said, and Clapton ain't got nothing on Dickie Betts.
Oh, that's tremendous. Now, how about the Outlaws? Tell me a little bit about them, because they played down here in Miami at Bicentennial Park. It's where they recorded Greengrass and High Tides. It was a rainy day. What a freaking concert that was. Woo!
Well, you know, they were very, very close to the California country rock, the three-part harmony style, the Eagles. They were very close to the California style, except they had the long, extended guitar solo. So that's really the only difference there in my mind. They were called Southern rock. I don't know, borderline maybe, but they've been around a lot longer than people thought. You know, they got signed in the mid '70s, but they'd been around since I think '67 or something. But I don't know that they were doing Southern rock in the '60s, but they'd been around a very, very long time.
Now, how about the best intro ever on a Southern rock song? And that would be Blackfoot on Train. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, that's supposed to be Ricky's grandfather, Shorty, playing harmonica on that. I'm not, it probably is. I mean, I don't know why they would say it wasn't, but Ricky got the idea of doing Train, which I believe was an old bluegrass standard. And he got the idea of doing that from his grandfather, Shorty, who was a versatile musician and had been on a local TV show here in Jacksonville. It was called Country Frolics, hosted by Toby Dowdy.
Now, the most interesting thing I found out about the Jacksonville music scene was the first person that it started with. Ray Charles? You got to be kidding.
Yeah, the Jacksonville music scene basically started in the black neighborhood of La Villa. And it started before Ray Charles, but and he scuffled. He had a hard time getting gigs here. So he went to high school at the St. Augustine School for the Deaf and Blind. And he quit when he was 16 and he moved to Jacksonville, which is only a few miles north. And he lived at 752 West Church Street, where the La Villa School of the Arts is now. He scuffled around town. He played in a country band for a while. And he just went to the bus station one day and says, "What's the furthest city from here?" And the ticket taker said, "Seattle." He gives, "Give me a one-way ticket. I'm out of here."
Oh my God. Now, is there any band that's coming out of Jacksonville now that we should focus on?
Oh, that's a good question. There are. It's sort of a Southern rock revival up here. There's a band called Calford Town, who are very, very good. There's a couple more I'm not familiar with. And the scene seems to be having a bit of a revival. For a long time, it was just incredibly dead. But it seems to be waking back up again. But with this COVID thing, has really knocked it back down.
Now, who do you think was the most influential person to come out of the Jacksonville music scene?
Well, for the public, it would have been Ronnie Van Zant, but for the musicians, it would have been Dickie Betts.
Wow, I guess I kind of nailed it. I was waiting for Graham Parsons to come back in there too. Now, people don't realize that he went and he played in with the Byrds, right? And did he go to England to do that? Where was all that at?
Yeah, he did play in England with the Byrds, and he was with them for not very long. He did one album with them, Sweethearts of the Rodeo, and he got fired. He was chasing the Rolling Stones around, trying to get in the Rolling Stones, I think. And Mick Jagger ran him off because he and Keith Richards were doing too many drugs and not getting any work done. And the rumor has it, and Mick Jagger's brother, Chris Jagger, confirms the rumor that he wrote Wild Horses, or co-wrote Wild Horses.
Wow, what a tremendous, tremendous song that was. What would you consider to be the anthem of this period for all these bands?
Well, I guess it would be "The South's Gonna Do It Again" by Charlie Daniels, because I know, I got a better idea, but it's still Charlie Daniels. "Long-Haired Country Boy," because that explains it all.
I love that. I love that. Now, I also love "Devil Came Down to Georgia." I like that one.
Charlie was a hoot.
But I got to tell you, got to be "Freebird." Come on, man. It's got to be "Freebird."
I think "Long-Haired Country Boy" explains it in the first person what Southern rock is all about. Yeah, I have long hair, and yeah, I take drugs, but underneath it all, I'm a redneck, and you better not mess with me.
Okay. That does sort of drive the storyline of the early 70s through, I'd say, 83. That's definitely right down the middle for these guys. Last thought before we let you go.
Well, a lot of people expected the book to be a fan letter, and it's not. It's a fairly critical look at Southern rock, and it ain't all pretty. And no. I looked at it from the point of view of a scholar and a historian rather than a fan. And I tried to be as objective as possible, which is you only can do the best you can. I looked at the data very skeptically, and I nonetheless came away with a lot of respect for these guys and what they accomplished. It's an amazing story, and it really needed to be told. And these guys did what was practically impossible, and they pulled it off.
Well, you said these guys, there were a couple of women that were involved. They really didn't get a lot of drag. But who would you mention as the couple of women that might have had a good impact here?
Yeah, for the most part, it is a boys' club, Jim. The women would be Dale Krantz, who was started off in 38 Special, and now she's in Leonard Skinner. And the backup singers for Skinner, the Honkettes. And maybe Bonnie Bramlett. You could say she was a Southern rocker from Delaney and Bonnie. And maybe Ruby Starr from Black Oak, Arkansas. So you could name the women in the Southern rock movement on the fingers of both hands, really, if you thought about it really hard.
Black Oak, Arkansas. How tremendous. They were great. Well, listen, I want to thank you so much for coming. Again, Michael Ray FitzGerald and Charles Flink, they'll both be at the Miami Book Fair. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that way. They'll both be at the Miami Book Fair. They're both tremendous books. I've had a great time reading them both. One is really informative about my business. One's really informative about my my social part, my rock and roll, like sweating in the clubs and all that other stuff when I was a kid. So I want to thank you both for being here today. I want to thank Reagan Mendoza for coming and running the show. Reagan's been really doing some great work for us on the video. So Reagan, thank you so much for that. Charles, you've been listening in. What was your favorite Southern rock band?
Oh, you've mentioned so many today, but probably I'd have to go with Leonard Skinner because that was the one I was identified with. It was, in my high school yearbook and all that. And I think all these, what ties it all together for me, all these were storytellers. They were trying to get their story out through their music, and they told it in different ways. And it's kind of an interesting perspective in that regard.
Yeah, well, that's what we had as a common theme today. It was all about storytellers. We had storytellers on. They told the stories, I'm going to say, about other storytellers. And Charles gave us a guide on bringing our community together in a socially positive way. What a wonderful thing for today's times. So I want to thank you both for being here. I want to remind everybody that we are South Florida's longest running talk show. I want to thank the first responders, the healthcare heroes, and all the people that are putting themselves on the front line. And today, especially, I want to thank the teachers. God bless you all. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Huh?
Thanks, Jim.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I want to thank our sponsors, Warren Henry Automotive, Krakow AI, Carlson Integrated, the Bergstrom Center for Real Estate Studies at the University of Florida. And I want to thank you, our listeners. And I want to thank our guests. They were tremendous. Please go to our Facebook page, our LinkedIn page, all our different pages. Give us feedback and comments. Tell us if you liked our guest and if you want to hear some more. Join our community. Give us comments. Jim Freed, at Freed on Business, at Jim Freed. That's LinkedIn. That's Twitter. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm on everything. We've got a great website, too. If you missed today's show, Reagan will have it up probably by the end of the day today. This is Jim Freed for Freed on Business. Make sure to look for me next Wednesday at noon. Next Wednesday at noon, we're going to have Casey Conway on. We're going to find out what's really going on in the economy. Oh, you're going to love that. Why? Because I just love doing this. Now, remember, the person who wants to do something finds a way, the other finds an excuse. Now go out there and make it happen. God bless you. God bless America. Reagan, the show is yours.